right? So we are looking to look at the shares itself lah, right? But again, I don't think I should go very detailed. I just go on the opening, the introduction part of this topic. Right. So company, right, corporations or company lah, right, are created entities, right? So created by law that exist separately. So bila cakap company, you akan ada two sides, right? You have the owners and you have the company itself, right? So the company is an entity created by the law, right? So the company itself is a separate entity from the owners. Okay, let's say that right, we say that we have a company A and the shareholders are, we have Ahmad, Ali and Achong, for example, right? Three. So these, all right, the company, whatever, means that company is a separate entity from these three shareholders. All right, so that's why you call it as a separate entity. So what do you mean by separate entity? Means that the law separate between the company and the owners. All right. Ownership in a corporation can be publicly or privately held. Owners of a corporation are called stockholders, or in Malaysia, we call it as a shareholders. The asset of a corporation belong to the corporation, not to the stockholders. So company, all right, for example, they have the asset. For example, they have all the cash, account receivable, all right, all the asset, the equipment, the building, the land. So that is belongs to the entity, the company, the corporation. Right? So you as the owner, you can't say that, oh, that's mine. No, you can't say that. All right, because it's a separate entity. The asset of corporation belongs to the corporation, not the corporation is responsible for its own debts and must pay income tax on its earning. Right? So that's why we say that if the company have a lot of debt, right, have a lot of creditors, they have to pay whatever the amount had to be paid from the company, not from the owners. Right? So we have a separate entity. But all right, you see that bila kita kata company is privately or closely held, it means that the shares of the company is a close, right? They don't open their shares to everyone. Not everyone can buy the shares in the company. But if you say that it's a publicly held, all right, normally we call it as a Malay company which is a berhad. All right, privately or closely held kita panggil sendirian berhad in Malaysia. Right? If as other country we call it as a private limited. All right? Or if you say that it's a public held, it's a public company. All right, public company. In Malaysia kita panggil berhad saja. Yeah? So berhad company means that anyone can be the shareholders of the company.
Oh, the difference in berhad and berhad?
Oh, different. Sendirian berhad, maximum number of shareholders is only 50. 50.
Oh, 50.
Public held is it can go to thousands, yeah, companies. And those publicly held, all right, there are two types further. The public held company can be listed and not listed in the Bursa Malaysia. Kalau public held listed in the Bursa Malaysia, it means that the shares is traded in the share market. Anyone can buy and sell the shares of the company anytime, anywhere. But if it's not listed, all right, then you have to look when the company offers, only you can buy shares in that company. Get that? All right. All right. Advantages. Why is it good for you to incorporate? So the difference here is that you have a company, right, which is an incorporation. You also have another, what we call an enterprise. Right? Enterprise kat Malaysia kita panggil enterprise juga lah. Enterprise. All right. So it means the enterprise is there's only one owner. So the owner, all right, own the company. So we have only one. But if you put that as an incorporation, right, you incorporate the business, it means that now you have a separate entity. Kalau you don't incorporate macam enterprise just now, all right, there's no separate entity between the owner and the company. So that's why if the company cannot, the enterprise having a lot of debts, all right, actually the owner has to fork out his own money to pay for the debts. Right? Tapi kalau incorporation company, right, because it's separate entity, right, creditors cannot simply take money from the shareholders. It doesn't work like that. All right, because the money owned or the money owed by the company only can be paid by the company. All right, so shareholders are actually a bit of protected lah, right? Just now the advantages is that limited personal liability for stockholders. So means that, for example, your exposure is only on the amount you invest in the company. All right, you invest 1,000, so that is the maximum exposure. So the most that you can loss from the company is 1,000, the amount that you invested. Right, they cannot claim more than what is the investment. You can transfer ownership from one party to another. All right, and normally company is professionally managed, and company has a continuity of existence. It means that you know that we always assume that the company will continue to exist for a certain period of time, not forever, but at least for a certain period of time. Because why company? Because under the law, if the company is going for bankrupt, all right, it's not that today company exists, tomorrow bankrupt. No, normally there's a time period before the company is announced as a bankrupt company. All right, it's not that easy. Right, disadvantages is that you have to pay a lot more tax. All right, because company in Malaysia have to pay, I think it's 24% tax rate. Right, as talking about individual, lower tax rate. All right, you have to follow a lot of regulations because it's under the law. All right, and cost of formation is more expensive compared to enterprise. And then especially of ownership and management, because now you're talking about the shareholders is different from the one who actually manage the business. So these two, the manager of the company and the shareholder, they may have a different expectation, right? So for example, shareholder, we always request for a returns in the form of dividends, all right? And company normally want to maximize their profit, right? So, but they work for bonuses, all right? So manager will look for bonuses, but of course, if you pay bonus, you reduce your profit, and that will not make shareholder happy. Yeah, so that's what we call conflict of interest here. All right, corporation, you form a company under the law, right? And then in Malaysia, you have to apply to apa kita panggil? Apa kami? Company secretary. Company secretary. SSM. Suruhanjaya.
Suruhanjaya
Itu SSM.
syarikat.
Bukan. SSM syarikat Suruhanjaya Syarikat Malaysia
Dulu ROS kan?
To apply. You have to
dulu
incorporate.
ROS,
Then you have
ROC.
ROC, right? Registration of company, registration of society, all this lah. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Then you have to form, and then you have to, normally shareholders have the rights to vote, right? Normally shareholders will have to receive dividends, right? And then in case of liquidation means that the company goes into liquidate tutup kedai lah. Yeah. So it means that if the company goes to liquidation, then you're going to distribute the asset. First, they have to pay the creditors, right? And then they have the last person that will get from the liquidation is the stockholders, because you have to pay the other ranking, the priority. Who should be paid first? Right? Normally, we have to pay the creditors. Right? Rights of stockholders, board director. These are all the companies lah. Right. So this one is publicly owned, is the corporation company with Berhad in Malaysia. So Berhad company, dia punya more regulated. Alright. So they have to prepare financial statements in accordance to in this case in Malaysia kita panggil MFRS Malaysian Financial MFR regulation standard. Yeah. Have their financial statement audited, right, in Malaysia by auditors, right, comply with federal laws, and submit financial information for SEC. SEC is the kita punya tadi lah, ROC tadi. Yeah. Alright, so stockholder records maintained normally by kat Malaysia, for example, the stockholder records is maintained by company secretary. Alright, company secretary will keep all the records of the shareholders. For example, whenever there's a new shares being issued, who are the shareholders, all right? If there is any changes, all these things is recorded by or kept by the company secretary.
Company secretary.
Yeah. So katalah ada changes in the shares, so everything is recorded, documented accordingly lah. Yeah. Alright. Okay. In terms of the shares, stockholder equity is increased in two ways. Alright. Means that bila you nak increase your shareholder equity, number one is contribution by investor in exchange for capital stock. So it's normally investment lah. So bila investor put money into the company, alright, you are going to create debit cash, credit your shareholder fund. Stock. Kita panggil apa? Stock. Kita panggil apa? Stock capital.
Stock capital.
And share capital.
Share capital, stock capital, yes.
Another way, remember, owner's equity will also increase by the profit, right? The retained earnings. Kalau you tengok slide yang dulu, chapter 1, you ada retained earnings kan? How you get the retained earnings? Every year tu you accumulate. The accumulated profits is what we call the retained earnings. Why is it called retained earnings? Because profit is not everything is kept by the company. Remember, company has to pay dividend to the shareholder. So the dividend is actually paid out of the retained earnings. So retained earnings is the accumulated profit minus dividends paid for the year. So whatever appear as a closing retained earning is the one that you see in the balance sheet. Right? Okay. So talking about the shares itself, yeah. So you have many types of shares. All right. We have the authorized shares. So authorized shares kita panggil as the maximum number of shares capital stock that can be sold to the public. So maknanya company, when you form a company, you have to be registered. Right? So when you register your company, you have to provide all the details about the company lah, the address and what actually the company is doing. Of course, the name of the company, right? The company will be given a company number, right? On top of that, the company must also mention how much is the maximum number of shares that the company can issue. So that's what we call authorized shares. So katalah authorized shares is 1,000. So it means that the company can offer their shares to shareholders, all right, maximum 1,000 only. So katalah you punya authorized share is 1,000, you cannot have share capital invested 2,000. Because why? Whatever investment cannot be more than the one authorized.
Okay.
Yeah? So that is what we call authorized shares. Tapi how much is actually you issue shares, right? Whatever the amount purchased or the shares invested into the company is what we call issued shares. Yeah, issued share capital. Total authorized shares, all right? We have issued shares are authorized shares of stock that have been sold to whom? Right? To the shareholders.
Shareholder.
So this is the issued shares. Katalah tadi 1,000, maybe 500 only issued. The balance 500 is unissued shares. So dia ada still lagi dalam company lah. You tak issue lagi. Alright, bila you nak issue, depends lah. If you need more money from the investor, then you are going to issue more shares. Right? But whatever you nak issue cannot be more than the authorized shares. Katalah, what if you need to go for 2,000 shares? Then you have to apply again lah. You have to apply to the relevant authority. You have to change lah. You punya memorandum of association. Right? Then you have to say that, okay, I need to increase my authorized shares. Right? So that one you have to apply. Yeah?
1,000 to 2,000.
So issued shares ni pula ada pula. Issued shares kata outstanding shares are owned by the shareholder. So tadi satu apa? Treasury shares. Right? So these are the types of shares lah. Nak tajuk ni kan shares kan? Shareholder. So daripada authorized shares tu, yang issued could be outstanding shares. What we call, kalau outstanding shares ni, shares tu owned by the investor, by the stockholders. Right? Another type of shares, issued shares, is what we call treasury shares. Right? So treasury shares ni happen is that I have issued my shares to the investor, right? And then investor has bought, shareholder dah beli dah buy the shares, right? But what happened is that the company buy back the shares from the shareholders. So dah sampai kita panggil buy back shares, right? Treasury shares ialah share that issue pada luar, and then the company buy back from the shareholders.
Oh,
So
dia beli
normally
balik.
what the company wants, sorry?
Company beli balik lah maknanya.
Yeah. So that's why namanya buyback.
Buyback.
Alright. The stockholder but will repurchased by the company in the stock market. Right? So now siapa owner the company of the shares?
Company?
Company lah. Right. The treasury
Company.
shares is owned by the company. Outstanding shares owned by the shareholder. So in this sense, company pun shareholder juga. Right? Because they are the holders of the treasury shares. So, tapi dalam in your financial statement, right, under your owner equity, kalau you have two different shares, you have the share capital dengan treasury shares. So you have to separate that two shares.
Oh, different kan? Okay.
Yeah, because you have share capital and then you have the treasury shares. Right? Okay, so I don't want to go into this. Right? Dia kata bila you nak beli shares, alright, par value ni kita panggil par value is just amount the value of stock lah. Right, when it was first authorized. So in Malaysia, most company, the par value is always at RM1. Right, so bila you register your company, you can indicate what is your par value. Right, the amount assigned to each share of stock in the company. Right, so normally in Malaysia, kita panggil each share values at par RM1. So remember that.
Maknanya minimum share ke maksudnya macam mana? It is minimum share?
Tak, mana par dia macam ni. Right? Par value is always like this. So means that, alright, the company, remember company kena ada at least 2 shareholders. Alright, so sometimes kita panggil $2 shares. Because why $2 company itu maknanya company itu owned by 2 individuals sebab company mesti ada at least 2 and each one $1. So that's nama $2 company. So shareholdernya 2 je lah. Investment dalam company tu ada RM2 je. For example. Right. Okay. So katalah now the par value is 1. Okay. Well, bila you main shares tak?
Tak.
You pernah berani. You tak main?
Tapi ramai lah kawan saya.
You pernah dengar tak orang main share?
Lah. Tahu saya dulu.
So what happen is that, so those shares yang your friend play, alright, so this is what we call investment in shares or investment in securities. Right? So bila cakap securities ni, shares ni, bukan security guide tu tau. The security is the shares market.
Ya, faham.
Okay?
Right. Market, yes.
So bila you talking about these shares, alright, it's always that par value is RM1. So shares can be offered at below par or above the par. Below the par means that it is offered below RM1. Above the par means that the shares issued at premium. Ini at discount. Sebab apa? Below par, ini is at premium because why is above the par. Do you get it? Okay. So what happens is that people will always want to buy shares which is below the par, or if it could be above the par, but when they buy share, they buy at when the price goes down. You buy. When the price goes up, you sell. So the difference between your buy and your selling price, that is your profit. Itulah orang duk main shares tu. So they have to look at the price of the shares. Yeah. So then there is another subject lah, right, on the shares investment. Right. So that's why kata the par value, right? And you ada, I don't want to go into this lah. Par value maknanya company issued, cash received. So whenever you have issued your shares, right, the number of shares issued times by the par value per share, right? The remainder is assigned to additional paid up capital. So because, for example, the par value is, soalan ni, assume corporation issue 10,000 shares, par value $2. But they issue at what? $8 per share. Nampak? So sekarang ni dia issue at premium ke, at discount ke, at par value?
Premium.
At
Melebihi
premium, right?
premium.
So premiumnya 8. But
Exceed
you have
from
to
the
record this. You tak boleh record. Of course, you dapat debit. Okay, how much is the cash receive?
6
Ha?
ringgit.
Mana datang? RM6. You dapat cash berapa? Company issue 10,000 shares
Oh,
for
10,000.
8 per share. How much cash that you actually receive? How much company dapat duit?
80,000.
80,000. Because why? Cash is the 10,000 shares times by $8 per share. But on the credit side,
10,000.
debit, right?
80,000.
Side, you kena differentiate between par value and the premium price. So the par value, you have to record 10,000 shares at par, RM2, so that is 20,000. Right? And the balance is the $6, right? That is the
$6.
premium. So you're going to credit shares premium 60,000. Alright, kat sini tunjuk apa? Debit cash 80,000, common stock or your shares capital is 20,000. Kenapa 20,000? The par value is $2.
$2.
$2 at 10,000. So the difference is the additional paid in capital. All right. Can you put a note that sometimes we call this as the share premium?
Share premium.
Yeah. So because why? That's the additional value of the stock. So share premium ni will only part of the share capital. So you akan ada share capital, you ada share premium. Yeah. So this is when shares is issued at premium. Alright. So you see that, alright, issuance of par value stock, you nampak dia akan tunjuk, alright, common stock is $2 par value, 50,000 shares authorized, 10,000 issued and outstanding. So how much is the shares issued? Is 10,000 shares, $2 par value kan? That's how you get outstanding 20,000. But the additional
20,000.
paid is the 60,000. So total paid in capital 80,000. Yeah. So and then you have a retained earning of 150,000. So total honest equity is 230,000.
250,000.
So you nampak you have to show that par value and the share premium separately. Yeah. Right. Right. This one is a preferred stock. Preferred stock. Alright. Dia tadi kita kata there are many types of stock. Right. Shares. Kalau kata preferred shares ni dia macam ni. Dia akan tengok you nampak Preferred stock 9% cumulative $100 par value. Authorized 100,000 shares, issued and outstanding 50,000 shares. So in this case, you see that there are many types of stock. Ini nama preferred stock, ini common stock. Okay? So you have to record at par value. So how do you get the 5,000 preferred stock? Is 50,000 shares issued kan? Issued and outstanding. Par value dia berapa? 100. So 50,000 times by 100, you dapat 5 million lah.
5 million, yes.
Tapi DSY is another common stock. Alright. $5 par value. Authorized 3 million. Issued and outstanding is 2 million. So how much is the value? You have 2 million issued times by 5 dapat 10 million.
10 million.
And then the additional ni maknanya bila dia issue at more than par value lah. So dia tunjuk kat sini preferred stock, premium is 500,000, common stock
500,000.
So total semua ni ada 35.5 million. Right? What's the difference between preferred stock and common stock? Preferred stock normally akan ada bukan normally, will have this percentage, 9%. Alright, apa maksud preferred stock? Preferred stock is a separate class of stock. Alright, having priority over common shares in terms of dividend distribution. So maknanya bila you preferred stock, preference lah. Alright, so bila company nak bayar dividend, company will pay dividend to preferred stock first at the stated rate. So just now we see that the rate is 9%. So company will have to pay, alright, 9% to their preferred stock. Alright, the dividend is 9% of the shares issued. And in terms of distribution of asset in case of liquidation, they will give first to your preferred stock. Namanya preferred. I prefer kind of stock. Yeah. So they will pay preferred stock first, then only bayar pada common stock. Right. And then cumulative dividend right. So cumulative means that tadi kita kata 9% kan? So
9%,
most company has to pay 9% every year to preferred stock, whether company make profit or loss. Okay. Tapi katalah dia sebut, in this case dia sebut apa tadi? Preferred stock 9% cumulative. Sometimes dia sebut preferred stock 9% je. Tapi kalau ada 9% cumulative, it means that every year company has to pay 9%, right? So katalah this year company don't pay, next year it becomes 18%. Because cumulative, right? So it becomes payable in the following year. Right? So that's why normally most of the time preferred stock is cumulative dividend. Right? Callable by company can buy back the preferred stock and normally has no voting rights. Alright, common stock ada voting right. Voting right maknanya apa? What do you mean by voting rights?
Voting right. Dia punya macam
okay, company must have their annual general meeting. Alright, AGM. Right, if you are a member of ke-1 ke Kurnia kan, for example,
AGM, yes.
Ada AGM kan, and then you kata you nak propose a few things lah, company the association proposing anything, you can vote whether you like it or you don't like it. Alright, that's the voting rights. So normally if we're talking about company, alright, kalau a company is if an individual is a preferred stock punya shareholders, alright, they have no voting rights. They have stock in the company, but they don't have a say in the company. Alright, that's why they have no voting rights.
No voting rights.
Alright, so this is the type of cumulative and non-cumulative. Okay. Okay. In terms of the market value of the shares, bila shares, alright, you always have to show what is the market value of the shares. Yeah, because shares, the price of the shares move, alright, or changes over time. Right. So when you report your balance sheet, alright, you must show your shares, alright, at the market value as well. Right. So if you were to invest market value, accounting by the issuer, common stock is carried at original. So you have to look at from two perspectives. Company that issue stock, so you akan ada share capital under owner's equity, right? But as an investor, if I were to invest in other company, I will have to show my investment, right? In this case, we call it as a marketable securities. That is my asset because why? I invest in another company. All right, so in that case, my marketable security has to be showed at market value. Right, so that's the difference in terms of the valuation of the shares. If you are the issuer of the shares, all right, then you issue shares, then you have to show share capital. All right, but if you are investor, then you have to show the market value because as an investor, my investment is my asset. All right, and I have that as a marketable security as my asset. Dia tak letak shares tau, dia letak marketable security. So you have to put that the market value of the shares at the point of reporting.
Marketable.
Alright, so stock splits ni happen is that company, katalah you have 1,000 shares in the company, but the company now is say that, okay, now company offers stock splits, right? Stock splits in order to reduce the market price, right? So split maknanya dia akan pecah lah. So katalah initially I have 1,000 shares, right? Dia kata 1 to 2, so every 1 share dia akan jadi 2 shares now. Right? So means that now company has 2,000 shares. In my case, as a shareholder, initially I have 1,000 shares in the company. Now company stock split. Alright, so I added 2,000 shares. Value dia sama. Alright, for example, 1,000 and 1 I have 1,000 at RM1. So I have 1,000 shares. But kalau the stock split, now I have 2,000, but each shares now is only at 50 cent. So 50 cent times by 2,000, value dia jadi 1,000.
Oh, sama jugalah.
Yes, value sama, tapi number of shares different. But the good thing about stock splits is that when company pays out dividend, okay, it's based on the number of shares. Dividend per share. So initially my share is only 1,000. So now I have 2,000 shares. So I will get more dividend as compared to the previous one. Okay, but the value of the shares now reduced. Yeah, so before split, for example, you have 1,000. So assume that Philips has 1,000 shares, 10,000 par value. Now split 2 to 1. Right? So common stock initially 1,000. After split, I did 2,000. But they split. But the value initially was 10,000. Now become 5,000. Total par value no change. Nampak? So why they do this? Yeah, because
par value decrease lah.
Par value decrease. But the total value is the same. Why they do this? Because they want to reduce the par value. Yeah.
Oh, yang increase share sajalah.
So this treasury stock I mentioned earlier, alright, treasury shares are issued shares that have been acquired by the company. The buyback, company buy back the shares from the public. Right? Kalau you buy treasury shares, bila you buy, okay, akan masuk balik lah. Debit your treasury stock, credit your cash. You have to pay for the shares. So that's why treasury stock, alright, normally you credit your shares kan? But treasury stock, but you buy back. So you masuk balik dividend shares tu, you credit, you debit your shares. Alright, you call it as a treasury stock. Treasury stock.
Treasury share tu steady stock.
So so bila you buy, then bila recording reissue ni, so this one is too technical lah for you. Yeah. Kalau accounting memang best lah belajar benda-benda ni. Okay. So when at the end of the day, alright, when you talk about shares, you nak tengok return on total asset lah. Right. You want to see, alright, how much is the return for every asset lah. Right. Return on common equity, you want tengok berapa, how much actually the investment on your common stock equity. So these are among the financial statement analysis. These are among the analysis that you want to see whether is it good to invest in the company or not. Yeah, you want to look at the return on total asset and return on common stock equity. Okay, so that covers your chapter 10. So I think 11. That's all for
11.
Chapter 11.
Chapter 11.
Mana I punya ni? Hilang balik lah Google Chrome. Okay, so that, right, conclude for chapter 11 on the shareholders equity.